Hey guys, welcome to the Evening Podcast. I'm your host, Adrian. Thank you guys for being back with us. My brother Luke is behind the lens again, the voice of the podcast. And today we will be discussing leadership. This is something that I'm passionate about. I know my brother Luke is, and we hope that you guys enjoy this episode. So I got saved June 2017. 2017, I gave my life to Christ. I got baptized June 25th, 2017. And probably, I say 2 months after that, I was given the opportunity to lead the drama ministry. It was something that I didn't want. I didn't want to do anything, really. But my wife had a conversation with, some people at the church at a marriage event. And then I remember meeting with Pastor about the opportunity, and I was saying that I don't feel qualified to do this. I don't feel like I'm at a place to serve or to lead anything. I feel like God is still working on me. And of course, he used scripture to kind of, like, everybody he picked was unqualified. They grew through the sharpening, grew through the following of Christ and learning. And that was part of my journey, because even in me being over the drama ministry, I still was submitted under someone, and then I still was being discipled in the discipleship program. But that didn't change the fact that I had to make decisions like right off the back that I wasn't comfortable with, where, the first production I'm putting together, I got a dude that's super arrogant, making everybody feel like less than, because he has a theater background. He's performed similar to how I've performed, not as much as me, but I was just like, man, like, I want to have this dude in it because he's good, but I don't know if his character is what we need for the entire production. But long story long, I ended up having to tell the guy he couldn't be in the production, and that was crazy. My first big thing as being a leader. So that's how my leadership and journey started in ministry.
And then what came next? Men's Bible study, married. What was the next leadership position that you had?
Nah, that was it for a while. And then I served on the tech like I did. I wasn't necessarily over it. I was just kind of like one of the faces of like the announcement hosting. Like, I did a lot of that type of stuff, like behind the scenes. The thing with the Bible study came about was I started my own Bible study 2019. I had a bad car accident. And I know some people watching, they remember that car accident I had. I had a car accident that had me down, so while I was down, where I couldn't move hardly, I just had a revelation from the Lord while I was sitting at home. And I'm like, man, I need to do something. But I wasn't a traditional like Bible teacher. I just wanted to create a space for men to come and talk about the word of God, be vulnerable, and we just have real conversation. We just not hide behind the text, because some people just want to hide behind scripture, but not really talk about what they're going through and how to apply the scripture to what they're going through, right?
Yeah.
And it started with me just getting like 5 dudes together. Like, got 5 guys together. Then it was like October 2019, and then we went into 2020 when the shutdown happened, and I still did it. I was doing it throughout 2020, and I think towards the end of 2020, where Pastor Ken, he had came and sat in one of them on a Saturday morning, and he saw how all of these random guys were just talking, and that's when he approached me and said, hey, would you want to lead the Bible study at church? And I was like, yeah, but like, it would have to be like this. Like, I don't know how to do, it any other way. And he was like, that's fine. Like, that's what we want. And I remember my first Bible study, nobody was in there. It was like 4 dudes, bro. It was like 4 dudes. But I was just like, yo, I'm just here to be obedient. I'm here to just be used by God. And fast forward this year, before I left the church, I saw it go from 5 guys to 50 guys. And then from the 50, when we had our first men's camp, was over 100 men. So that was pretty dope to see. But then after that, me and my wife was asked to do the marriage thing, some stuff that we take really serious and things that we care about. The crazy part is that everything that we were asked to do, we were already doing it before we were asked. So that's the difference from us. Like we weren't, it wasn't like the pastors asked us to do something that we weren't familiar with. Like they saw what we were doing. They saw that we cared about people that we were. You and Diana are a product of what we were. Like us approaching you guys and just talking and inviting you guys over to get to know you and see where y'all at. Like that's the stuff we just did. If we could tell you were new, you guys were married, like, oh, let's talk to them.
Yeah.
But us doing that, that's what brought us into ministry, because those are things that I won't say it's easy for us. It's easy for us to serve that way. What was hard was to realize that it wasn't as important to certain people on leadership. That's what was kind of like the frustrating part. But other than that, like those were like the areas that I served in, like drama, men's ministry, marriage ministry. Okay. That. Now you got to answer the same question.
Well, mine is like, like when I was like 16, I really started to read the Bible by myself. And I remember like I read the whole New Testament and then I said, okay, let me read it again, but let me annotate everything that I'm reading so that it makes sense. You know what I mean? So then I reread like most of the New Testament besides like Hebrews and Revelations, just annotating. And then from that, God kind of gave me this idea of like, living for Christ, and just my relationship with God grew so much through that like I was like, okay, cool. Now this idea of living for Christ and what that means.
Yeah.
So I kind of created like this whole curriculum, by the time I was like 17, 18. So then we ended up moving to Reno, and I ended up being like the Sunday school teacher, where I'm now teaching these different things to like the kids and stuff like that. And then I went from a Sunday school teacher to.
Wait, so the first thing was Sunday school teacher?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like teaching Sunday school to, what was the ages? Like middle school, elementary schoolers, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Hold up. How old were you when you was doing this?
18.
Dang. Bro, that had to be rough, huh?
No, I mean, it was small, bro. So
it was small. Okay.
It wasn't bad, but, and you can tell like a lot of it would resonate with them, cause I guess I was a decent enough teacher, which would eventually lead me to be going a real teacher. And like, that's a whole different story. But, so that was like the first like leadership role. Besides that, I was like always like a musician. And then eventually like I might be like leading the music. So I'm like teaching parts and teaching songs and stuff like that. And then eventually just being like an assistant pastor when my brother was pastoring.
Sorry guys if y'all hear kids in the background.
Are they good? Yeah. So a lot of it was just, my whole thing was just being born and raised in church.
Yeah.
And it's like being in close proximity with the pastor. Like I'm the pastor's son or the pastor's brother.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like getting roles. Not to say that I'm not qualified for it, because obviously I have been studying, you know what I mean? Like, and then eventually turns into me being a chaplain, which is, I'm the pastor of a jail. You know what I mean?
Sunday school, teacher, chaplain.
Yep. Yeah.
When did you stop being a chaplain?
2019. No, 2020.
2020?
Mm-hmm.
And so did you, once you left from being a chaplain, leadership, I guess, and you probably going to pose this to me, was there anything you learned about yourself from being a leader? Like, and if so, what was the good quality and what was the bad quality? The
good quality is the heart. I think looking back, I definitely had like a good heart, but the bad thing was like, I was young, just completely, I just wasn't at the right age to like hold such an important position, having lived such little life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it's one thing, okay, you can teach the Bible to like little kids, but then now when you become a chaplain and you're like 22 years old, 23 years old, and you're now pouring into people who have lived these long lives. Yes, God can use me, but there's still a level of the word that I'm not even really experiencing yet, because like you just have to live. Like the longer you live life and the more you understand life and understand how things go, that's ultimately going to allow the word to cut you even more deeply. You know what I mean?
I would say this, it's not, I would say you probably didn't have proper mentorship too, because it's not bad that you were young. Like we see in the Bible that there Timothy, and the people that Paul, he steward that were young and sent them off to, to minister. But I think, excuse me, when you're young and you're just out here and you're like running on fumes, or you don't really have a covering.
Yeah. And
that's problematic.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Cause it's like, for me, it was just the way my mentor would be like, all right, do it. You got this. There wasn't really a walking side by side. Mm-hmm. If you did something wrong, I'm going to quickly correct it. Yeah. But there wasn't an actual like guidance of this is how you move in these situations. Yeah. And then when I'm in the jail, it's literally just like, all right, let's learning. Yeah. Now I'm learning all these different religions. I'm studying all these new religions. So now I'm debating certain people. Now I'm talking to other people, looking at other people manipulate me to get a diet. There's like a whole different level of ministry that I wasn't privy to, because I didn't even have a chaplain like, hey, let me show you how to move. Yeah. There was one guy who was there who was kind of cool, but at the same time, it was like, he was there like an hour or a few hours a week. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
that's interesting, because I was taught from my perspective, I had so many questions. Mm-hmm. And I think it was because I didn't grow up in church that I didn't know the etiquette that was, to be a leader in church, to serve in ministry, right? Yeah. So because I didn't have that, like all I had was how I dealt with people, out in the streets or in the world, like, and I'm trying to see, like, can I deal with these folks the same way, or is there a way I need to be, and so absolutely. I always had questions either from my mentor, or I would go to pastor. I would go straight to him and just be like, talk things through. But I was so grateful for how patient they were with me. They could tell that I was different. I just had a different perspective, and they didn't try to shape me like the traditional believer. That's what I was grateful for. They could have tried to, keep me in line, but they could see that I was always thinking deeply about what the word of God says. And I just want to make sure I'm following this. Yeah. Like I've done a lot on my own, but I need to know that I'm doing this the right way.
And I say this too, like my immaturity, being sheltered is the completely opposite. Not knowing the etiquette of just life, of understanding what it means to really be an adult, just from a natural sense. It's like I can be so holy and so into the word where that my life revolves around it, but there's still an aspect of like, there's an element of real life that there's a detachment from because of how sheltered I was.
You can't empathize with certain personalities.
I can empathize, but it's like just
sympathize. I'm sorry.
But how to like really, I guess the challenge was like, I'd be able to give an inmate way better advice now than I did at 8 years ago. Yeah. But and it's not that my heart was in the right place. It's just that now there's like a level of reality that I understand that now goes along with the Bible. So in my early 20s, and everybody's going to college, they try to take the belief of God out of you. So like in my early 20s, I'm just fighting like, this is what I believe. Like but now as I'm 32, I'm about to be 32 years old. Now it's, I already know, like, you're not going to sway me at all because I understand how these pieces fit into my life. Mm-hmm. So now I can help you understand, like, this is how you can curate this scripture into your life. Yeah. Because it's not just this ideal superficial message. Like this works in this way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now it's a lot more tactical that I can get with because of the experience of life that I've experienced.
No, that's good. Let's go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter 5, guys. We're going to read this just a little bit. This is talking about elders and the flock. I'm going to start at verse 2. It says, be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you are willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. That's for like seasoned leadership, what he's talking about, the elders. I love the part as not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. What I was always aware of in my leading people was what type of example am I setting?
Yeah.
Am I consistent? First off, am I the same when I'm speaking to them or teaching them? Is it consistent with who I am when they just see me in the foyer or they just see me outside in conversation or with my kids and my family? Better yet, is it consistent with my wife? Or am I putting on the show when I'm in front of the people, and when I get home, I'm somebody completely different?
Yeah.
That's what I was concerned with. And that's because I knew that I could get in front of the flock, in front of the people, the men, women, and I knew that they couldn't get me off my spot,
Yeah.
But I was more so like, man, the hardest part is coming home, having kids at the time, starting to have kids and being married and knowing that your wife knows you and having little petty quarrels and fights. Can I have these fights, humble myself to be back in good standing with my wife, where that translates both in ministry and at home, when home is my first ministry? I think that was what I was always watching for, but I also was watching it in other leaders. The one person that I kept my eye on was my pastor, and I would watch how he treated people. I watched how he conducted business. I was fortunate to be in meetings and watch how he handled himself in meetings with people. And even betrayal, even people leaving and talking crap about him and him not entertaining it and not talking crap back. Like, I would watch him be that way. Now, other leaders are opposite in that, and I would see things that was problematic about their leadership that I'd be like, nah, there's no way I would lead that way, or I would have handled that different if that was my team. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me. Edit that out.
Yeah. We saw like the spritz.
It came through like but yeah, I think that's what I was eager to. It says not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being an example.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say that I focused on a lot.
Why does it feel like that's so hard for leaders to do?
Being an example?
Not lording it over those who are following you and being an example. Like those two elements.
Oh, man, that's a good question, Luke.
Because check this out. I know leaders who, if you were to treat them the way they treat you, they couldn't deal with it.
Oh, hands down.
So it's like, it's the complete opposite. Like they lowered it over you, and that's not the example they want you to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the leaders that wear their title at all times. I think that's problematic. Like you should be, as a leader, you should be able to know when a person on your team is coming to you sincerely and wanting to talk to you, and you just bring your guard down, put your title down, and just talk to me man to man or woman to woman, and just relate to me in this moment. And we could walk away, embrace each other, love on each other, and then you can step back on your title, your platform, and be what you need to be. Yeah. And I think there's a fear of letting people in and getting hurt. It's not, and I think that's a cop out though, because me telling you to be vulnerable, to be human as a leader isn't saying to, I'm not asking you to be my friend. I'm just asking you to, like, come on, man, talk to me like a person. Yeah. Talk to me like you've been through something. Yeah. Don't talk to me at a high level and generic things. Like, give me something so I can feel like that you actually care about me, right? Yeah. And some leaders just don't feel like they need to do that. Yeah. And that's the way that they leave. For me, I feel like if a person, I have to read the situation to see if this is going to require me to, am I sympathizing with them, empathizing with them, or am I giving them instruction?
Yeah.
You know, like, no, this is what you need to do. Boom, boom, boom. That's a different type of conversation. Or they coming to me broken and it's like, man, well, let me share something with you. When I did this to my wife, this is what it did to me. Like, you come down to a
Yeah.
level and you present your brokenness. You remember your brokenness
Yeah,
to meet them
absolutely.
in that instead of
I
avoiding
hate
talking about it.
I hate when leaders forget their brokenness. I hate when leaders are so far removed from where they used to be that there is no empathy with the people who are following them, and it's just they want to be treated and revered like these celebrities. And it's like they want to now they're going to close themselves off and only want to be around people who are on their level. And if you're not on their level, they don't even know how to talk to you like a human. Like they can't even look you eye to eye if you don't have the similar title as them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy because I was like, how is that? Jesus let everybody touch Jesus. Jesus was talking to people with leprosy. Like, this is literally not how it's supposed. If we're following Jesus's example,
Yeah.
and yet we're only dealing with people at a certain, we only treat people like human if they have a similar title as us. What's the point of our religion at all?
Yeah.
What's the point of your faith?
I wanna give props to he probably gonna watch this, but I want to give props to Rob Barsamian because I served with him a lot, and this man was probably the most easy to be friends with because he was a consistent guy. He was no nonsense when it came to nonsense, but at the same time, he wasn't going to, act like he was above you,
Yeah.
even though he was above you. Like, he's on the board.
Yeah.
Like, he's like probably the leader of the board, you know, and he served a team. Like, he was the lead over ministry of the concierge, right? Not concierge,
Ushers.
but ushers. And that's probably one example of guys that I love doing ministry with him and his wife. We both love them. But there's other people that you saw change too because of a title, and you just like, man, like you can see people drift and isolate themselves into a bubble because of fear or because of, I don't know.
Man.
You can't put nothing in people's mouth because it could be a multitude of things. Ego, arrogance, feeling like you don't need to be in fellowship with people as much as you preach about it, you know?
I feel like the example, especially just growing up in church, the example that is set is this person is a bishop or this person is a pastor, therefore you're going to revere him as such. So because that's the example that was set 50 years ago, it just keeps going. It's like this cycle where it's like, oh, you're the worship leader. Like everybody has that exact same, a lot of people tend to have that exact same demeanor because of the fact that that's how they were brought into it. Just like you being hazed, you know, when you're pledging and you get that haze, I'm gonna slap you because I was slapped and because they were slapped and because she was slapped. You know what I mean?
Babe, I'm sorry. Can you bring a Kleenex box from over there on the thing? Sorry.
You know, so I think it's like when you have bad examples of leadership and that's what's training the next generation, this is what we get.
Yeah.
We get people who, once they get it, finally, now I can be the person with that power.
Thank you for that example of pledging because I can go back into that. Thanks, babe. Come on in, ain't nobody care. I can go back into that.
Hold on, wait till you like blow your nose.
Yeah, I'm gonna blow my nose. Don't want to keep picking at my nose.
Yeah,
I felt myself. Yeah, thank you for that example.
Wait, now say it.
All right. Thank you for that example of pledging because just because something happened to you don't mean you have to do it.
Yeah.
Like I went through that process, but I wasn't like my brothers after that. Like I did what I did sometimes just because I'm like, look, bro, I got to do this just because, you know, your brother's down there getting lit up, you know, so just to make it fair, balanced out. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
You know, that should be the same way. Even in, let's just take sports. Like, you have the captains on the other team, you know, and once they graduate, you step up and y'all captains, right? Like that don't mean we gotta do the hazing because that happens too in sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, nah, I'm not hazing nobody, bro. Like, we don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care. But it's people that feel like they work so hard to get to a respectable status in ministry that everyone must acknowledge them
Yeah.
as their title. Like they
Sadly.
have to have this gratification, and that is so problematic. And that's just, we talking elder status, right? Let's continue to read. Let's read the next part of it. It said, in the same way, you who are younger, submit yourselves to your elders. All of you clothe yourselves with humility toward one another, because God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. God opposes the proud, but shows favor to the humble. Younger people submitting to the elders. And that's where I come in at, where I'm submitted to my pastor.
Yeah.
You know, his church is his vision. It's not necessary that we have to agree with every little nuanced thing. No, I'm in agreement of the foundational thing.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement that he is my pastor. He's a meek man and woman. Like, I love the way that their hearts is for God. It's easy to serve under them. Do I feel like other areas can be, better? The leadership could be better in other areas. Yeah, but it ain't for me to make a fuss or be so frustrated that I got to find a way to be offended by it. I just don't have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't have to acknowledge, like, nah, that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. It don't do nothing for me. It's not bothering me to the point to where I'm so pissed off. Because I think we look for things too. Although no church is perfect, people sometimes look for things to be offended by. And they just, they talk about it to gnaw at it, to let it make them bitter.
Mm-hmm.
To next thing you know, they walk away and forget all the good that came out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've always wanted to be careful of. Like, yes, there's some things I would have done different on like a minor level, but I don't care that much to let it affect me, to forget that this is where the Lord saved me, restored my marriage, where I got all my children, not baptized, but honored,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that I see is when there's an expectation, there's like this very nuanced expectation that we all have for our leaders. Like we have this imaginary ideal of how a leader should be, especially how a leader should be towards their followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if you're not receiving what you feel like a leader should be like, sometimes you do start kicking and screaming a little bit. Maybe you do, like, you're not in line. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of leaders, before they're willing to make adjustments to their leadership style and actually like really take a step back and examine who they are, they'd rather break you. Like they'd rather break you as the sheep, break you and like put you back in line and continue on their path of whatever they're doing, versus actually like re-examining themselves and examine the example that they're actually setting. Because
that's good, Luke.
Everybody wants
that's
to,
good.
Every man wants their wife to be submitted to them, but how many men really look in the mirror and say, okay, am I worth being submitted to?
Ooh, that's a ouch right there. Now, what you're saying, like you saying leaders should take that same posture as what the man should take when it comes to his wife.
Yeah.
Like excuse me, guys, my wife isn't submitting to me. And the reason why she's probably not submitting to me, because you don't have a character that she wants to submit to. The reason why your team isn't submitted to you or engaging with you, because you don't have a character that's leading them well. And that's hard pill for people to swallow that's been serving in a position for so long.
Yeah.
Like, that's tough. And this is why I said this this year. I had told someone, I said, you know what? I'm ready to hand over the Bible study to the next guys. I knew I had a plethora of men that could do it, that were qualified, that had the character. And I remember someone saying like, no, man, like you should do it. And I said, no, I'm not that arrogant to think that this ministry is thriving because of me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to hand it off. Like, it's gotten where it's going to get, and it's going to take off. And it literally did that because of that. But it's so many people that won't even like entertain the idea of stepping away, or even not serving for a month.
Yeah.
Or not, like, they won't even entertain it because of the fact that they don't even consider themselves being in the wrong, because it's like a coach trying to coach every player the same way, and players not responding to their coaching style, where it's like, well, you don't. Every personality is different. You have to know how to come down and examine and realize, man, I might have to love on this person a little bit, but your approach of, well, I just show tough love. That's just the way God made me. So if Jesus was standing right next to you, you think that that's what he want to hear.
Man.
Let's just be honest. If you as a leader, you saying that, well, I show tough love. That's how God made me. You saying that Jesus standing next to you in the flesh. If you say that just how you saying it, you think he's just going to look at you upside your head and say that, yeah, that's right. That's how I made you. So that's how you should treat everybody that serves under you.
Yeah, because isn't that how Jesus treated everybody?
Jesus did just like that. Oh yeah, that's exactly how I did it.
And it's weird too, because it's like, just because you do one thing well, it doesn't mean you do all things perfect.
Be okay
and it's
with
like,
that.
It's okay. Like that's the thing. It's like you have to have the awareness to know, I'm really great at this and I'm not great at these things. That's what's great about Trump. He literally says, oh, I don't know. That's why I'm going to hire the person who does. Like, I don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. It's like, people don't get that. Like, that's how you build successful companies. That's how you build great teams, is when you trust the people who are around you.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any accountability who can hold you accountable and say, hey, you should not have said that, or hey, maybe you should approach this differently, or hey, that was incorrect, maybe you should go and apologize. If you're not empowering anyone on your team to hold you accountable, then it's just a dictatorship.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. That's a perfect example to use him, because he can fly off.
Yeah.
And we like, bro, you need somebody to taper you back, bro. But that's the same thing. If you continue in what you're saying, I know where you're getting at in leadership too. Yeah. That's the same thing. Yeah. As you ain't empowering people. Who are you building up? That
sincerely, not just saying, all right, y'all, if there's anything that I've done, I apologize. No, who are you sincerely saying, yo, cut me deep, because I need to make sure I'm still doing this unto God always. Like, I don't want to get down the road 1 year, 5 months, 6 months, 5 years, 10 years where I've lost myself. Like, so you feel free to cut me and I will take a step back to re-examine it. Like, are you doing that in leadership? And I feel like I know so many leaders who don't do that because they just get lost in their own sauce. They literally just feel like, oh, because this worked, I'm good. Not even that. Because I said it, it's good. And if it doesn't work, it ain't my fault.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I was grateful for the guys I had around me. Like, you know this about me. What do I say? Anytime I do something that I know that I'm leading some, or I'm directing something over people, I'm always like, hey, what you think? Was it anything? Like, that's how I come and I talk. But I don't ask everybody that. I ask people that I trust that's gonna like keep it 100 with me. Yeah. And it's people that don't do that. Yeah. Like, I see that they don't do that. Yeah. Like, you don't have nobody that you go to, because I know people that would challenge like people and hold them accountable and say stuff.
And it's like, if you have that type of relationship, you and your team are both going to grow. You and your church, they're both going to grow.
It's going to grow,
like, man. You see so many Instagram videos of these pastors who act like, this is my church. This is how I do it at my church. It's like, you were so deprived as a child. You were such a loser. You were so empty as a child, bro, that God empowers you to pray for people. And now you've taken that position and this becomes your identity. So now you're empowered. You have power. You have authority, finally. Yeah. You know, and what do you do with it? You look like a little girl. Well, like a little child.
The thing is that you've reached the I told you so. Yeah. And because you've reached the I told you so, you're only going to make decisions from the I told you so posture. And because you have that posture, now you present yourself with fake humility. Yeah. When you really don't really care what somebody think. Like, because even in your fake humility, you're still that self-righteous, like, is behind it. That narcissism is behind it. Yeah. That you're like, oh, like, it's okay to say thank you. But when you just try to blow it off, it's nothing but, and you don't even acknowledge that there is still work to be done. I appreciate you guys, honoring me, but there's a lot of things I need to work on.
The only people who fall into that fake humility are the casuals. The people who really are called to you, they know when it's BS.
Oh yeah.
And that's what's crazy. Like you can look, you've seen me, you've known me like the past like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You know the difference of like when I was going through something in my personal life and when like, oh, like, look, God's doing something, and vice versa. You wear everything on your face.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with something and it's heavy on you, I see it because we're in close proximity. You know what I mean? And we've checked each other on something.
Oh, yeah.
We've helped push each other past it. Yeah. A lot of these leaders think that they can just put on this facade to those that are closest to them. Yeah. And, oh, everything's fine. It's like, no, it's not. But because you haven't empowered us to hold you accountable, we can't even be there for you through your depression. Mm-hmm. We can't even be there for you through your hurts. Bro, because you want to just appear to be so great that you feel like if you're weak, we're not going to see you as Superman anymore.
Bro, even when I was doing like serving at church and I was like leading Bible study or like doing online hosting, you could see that I was heavy.
Yeah.
And I kept showing up, and only certain people will come and like check in.
Yeah.
Will like just ask.
Yeah.
It would be like the second I'm done recording, like folks, hey bro, you would be you come back, you gotta go in and do your thing. You'll come and say, bro, you good? And I'm just like, nah, I ain't good.
Yeah.
I'm just getting through it, bro. I'm just here because
so you don't get fined.
Just so I don't get fined.
Man. And it's like it's such a blessing, and I feel like leaders shouldn't take for granted the hearts that are really following them, who love them so much to where we want you to succeed so bad that even though you may have cut me or you may have said something crazy or you may be pushing me away and you're trying to like put me into like this more of a slave than an actual supporter and like working together. Yeah. Like I'm still there because of my love for you, you know, but how long are we going to give these leaders grace? You know what I mean? And then look at how many, like it's.
Because we're speaking from perspective of being leaders, but also being under leaders too.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope people are hearing. Like we're talking from two sides. We're not talking saying that we've led perfectly either. Yeah. Like I know that I shouldn't have been leading with the type of I guess mindset I was having. Yeah. Or even when I was going through, like I should have been in a space where I should have stepped down.
Or just took a break.
Yes, like I should take a break.
Let me have this. I need to just get my stuff in order. Yeah, I was thinking about this today, man. During service, I was like, wow. The Bible says if you have an ought with your brother, before you give your sacrifice to God, lay it at the altar, and make it right with your brother. Because you can offer up a sacrifice, but he ain't really gonna accept it because your heart's not in the right place. Yeah. Now you're just doing it out of routine. Like how many leaders need to just set their gift at the altar, get themselves right, and then come back. Okay, God, here it is. But growing up, you just feel guilty for taking breaks growing up in church. You know,
that's crazy to me because like the church that we're at now, like they are so adamant about people like taking a Sabbath and you know resting and receiving. Yeah. And you say because you've had just a history of growing up. And what I've seen, you know, from just my years of being at the one church I was at is you just serve. And if you want to take a break, sometimes depending on the leader you're under, it could be scoffed at, you know, because there may be, because we don't have enough people to serve. It's frustrating. If you got the same people constantly serving and folks constantly bailing or people just inconsistent. I get the frustration from that side, but at the same time, the people that you know show up that could run the risk of being burnt out, I think that those should be even more of awareness from your leader to say it's time for you to take a break. Right. Like it's okay. It's okay. Like, we don't have to keep going by the script. We don't have to keep doing this. It's okay for you to sit down, take this month off and just allow the Lord to work in you and or to feed you and give you revelation. Yeah. And that's just healthiness. That's just being healthy, bro.
Bro, it's like we may have an uncomfortable or not an ideal 3 weeks. I'd rather that than you go to the point where you just snap and now you're not even in church anymore 5 years later. You're burnt out. Church hurt, super negative. Now you've messed around and allowed certain vices to come into your life, and now you got a new stronghold. Now, like how many people have come into the faith and just left super quick because they burnt out fast?
Yeah, man.
It's like just with anything, man. It's like
and burnout's so real. Like
Yeah.
I'm seeing that in you. Well, you could see it too.
Yeah.
You could see it too on people, and you feel bad. It's like, man.
Yeah. And they're in denial. No, I'm good. Stop.
It's okay.
Like
it's okay.
We
that
know
it's
you're
hard.
not, even if you can say that, but we see the truth.
Like the nursery ministry, bro. Like just watching those women. Well, now with Ann Beno, like she's done a brilliant job. But before her, like you could just watch people be wore out. Mm-hmm. You watch people in their face, just the attitude, didn't have good energy. Like you could just see people just suffering.
Yeah.
And in the ministry, it's like, why are you even serving in this ministry?
Yeah.
Well, somebody got to do it. It's like, well, you don't need to do it with that type of posture.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it with that type of posture. It's
exactly.
and you don't want that type of thing being over the next generation of kids.
Yeah.
Let alone you going up there and you on the worship team and you got living a double life.
Yeah.
You know, like, or you serving in ministry and you ain't coming clean about your struggles.
Yeah.
You have no accountability, and you just constantly going through the motions. Like you said, not making things right with your brother, let alone right with God.
Yep. And how many pastors' marriages fail? You know, what have we seen? How many relationships are dying while we're serving and people are being blessed every Sunday? Mm-hmm. And it's like we're allowing that to fill us instead of actually allowing God to come in and fill our homes.
Yeah.
We're being filled by the applause. We're being filled by, oh, look what God did through me today. Mm-hmm. God can use anybody. Sorry. He literally can use anybody. You don't got to be saved for God to use you.
God don't need you.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, I don't care how many applause you've gotten for your gift. Don't think you so sweet or so nice that he needs you to further his kingdom. He's gonna bring it up. And what I want to do is just, you guys, as we close out this episode, anyone that's in leadership or under leadership, just remember that you need to be the example. Whether you're leading your people or you're under someone, you want to always make sure your posture is in alignment with God and that you're looking like Christ in every area of your life. There are no hidden places. You have accountability, you have community, and you have surrender and consecration in your life. Intimacy with God is what we want in every area. So God bless you guys. We love you guys. And we'll see you at the next episode. Even if podcast.
Even if they hurt me, you know I can't